Welcome to Stories and Songs, a series of interviews featuring musicians from the world of jazz and improvisation. I'm Andrea Keller, and it's my great pleasure today to be speaking with Ingrid Laubrock. Welcome, Ingrid, and thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you.
So I'll get straight into the questions. The first one, what have been the pivotal events in your musical journey?
I think there have been several pivotal events. One of them was definitely moving to London and picking up the saxophone, having come from a really classical background with my parents listening to classical music, me playing classical piano, recorder, kind of the things that were available in a small town in Germany at the time. That was sort of like at one point presented some sort of limitations for me, where I really was listening to jazz and wanted to branch out. And when I moved to London, I started playing saxophone, so that kind of was a big deal and really changed everything for me because I started embracing improvisation. Another a big moment for me was to join a collective of musicians in London that was called Fire Collective, because London had a pretty I lived in London for 20 years, and it had a pretty divisive kind of scene, which was either very improvised or very mainstream. There wasn't a lot of room for exploration or blending the two, or not, or even getting away from jazz and just creating your own music. And we rotted together with a bunch of like-minded musicians and created a Fire Collective. And it really was instrumental in kind of shaping how we were thinking and how actually in a way in shaping the scene, because we would rehearse together, we would make festivals, we would convince promoters who were rather who didn't really want to book music that they weren't completely sure would fit into a certain corner, that they now would, because we had a sort of like the power of a collective, basically. And then the last one really was moving to New York for me, which is now has been 10 years and has been absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah.
And what obstacles have you had to overcome, and how have you dealt with them?
I want to say poverty was one of them for sure, because I've from the get-go I kind of decided that I want to live off this, and I was quite adamant about it. So it sort of went from being a street musician to now having a relatively, well, right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, so everything is different again. But like basically from being a street musician to being relatively comfortable. So yeah, money has been for sure an obstacle at times. There were maybe in the first, I want to say, 10 years or so, there was definitely gender was sometimes an obstacle, because you had to kind of like grit your teeth. I did have to grit my teeth a few times and just push through, and prejudice, not necessarily always bad meaning prejudice, but nevertheless there.
Excellent.
Yeah, those were obstacles for sure.
And do you have a personal motto or a philosophy that guides you, or is there any particular advice that you'd like to give to up and coming musicians?
I think my thing has always been to just do it, to just like I've learned a lot, and I think my musicianship is from it's a very practical type of musicianship. I've learned a lot from doing it. I've learned a lot from putting myself in situations that were uncomfortable, in being with groups of people that would be honest with me, etc. And I I would say, do it and kind of work hard at it. Even the things that we all have to do or had to do at least at some point that have absolutely nothing to do with music. And most musicians will be in most creative musicians at least who want to push their own music will at some point in time be in the position where they have to be a driver, a booker, we have to fill in so many shoes before we, even a music copyist, a musical director, there's many different jobs that we all have to do in order to do that tour, or in order to do that recording. And there's no room, it's not very romantic. It's like basically you have to just you just have to like be pragmatic at certain points and work hard. That I think has definitely been a motto. I am not expecting other people to do this for me all the time, while I appreciate it when they do.
Sure.
Yeah.
And is there a particular song or an album of yours, of your creation, that or that is particularly significant to you or important? And
Yeah.
yeah.
So in recent years, I've embraced writing for orchestra more, and large scale composition. And I think the record that's already out, that is called Contemporary Chaos Practices, which is a 2018 recording, or was it 2019? No, 2018 it came out. That combines improvisation with fully notated classic, like new music. I think that has been an interesting development, and I have a new record that's coming out in November that builds on that, which is called Dreamt Twice, Twice Dreamt, and which is basically dreams of mine are sort of feeding the music. And I created small group versions and large group versions of the same pieces, but without really disguising big chunks of it. Like I might just take a fragment of a small group piece and turn it into an orchestra piece, etc. And those also feature like a cast of soloists that I really love here, plus electronics. And I think those are records that are particularly dear to me, because a lot of work went into them, and a lot of time, a lot of thinking and passion.
Yes. Oh, that sounds like such a fabulous concept. I can't wait to hear that. Well, thank you very much, Ingrid. We really look forward to exploring your music more in our workshop series. And I thank you for your time today and sharing your thoughts and your wisdom with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.